share my story too much, but like what's crazy is a lot of people will try to compare like, oh, I didn't have as bad of a story as you or XYZ, right? But like everyone actually like has their own battles, their own story, no matter who you are. I don't care if you're the richest kid in this world. I know you have battles. I know you have trauma, and it's okay.
I don't want to have normal life because then for me, like, that's it, you know?
You have to believe you can do it because intention's everything. I believed that I can build a business through Drew. I saw what he was doing. I saw how he was leading.
When you think you have it all figured out, then it's when the loses come, which I think it's more like blessings, right? When you lose all of that, it's like, okay, like, who am I?
The more research you have, the easier it is to build.
I just wanted to be seen, feel, and heard.
Growing up how we did, it's one of the hardest things, man. It's one of the hardest things. I was never adopted, so I lived in almost 10 different homes. I went to 19 different schools, so always the new kid. Every night I'm with my friends building new companies and projects.
You just gotta love the game.
There's no more pressure to impress him. There's no more pressure to impress myself. You want to find love? You gotta build yourself up. You gotta allow yourself to receive love, right?
Yeah. Jeremiah, welcome to House of Info podcast. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Of course. Excited. Super excited.
This is gonna be a very special podcast for me because I brought people from business and self-development and a lot of different walks of life, but I feel like without knowing it, you and I have a very, very similar walk of life. We both were orphans at a point in our lives, and it's not that we were handed the easy route, go to college, go to school, go to college, have a good job, and then you just go through life like that. But I actually think that's what made you so successful and be so resilient. Can you like walk us a bit through how you went from, you literally said, being illiterate to founding a tech startup to now living in Bali, having multiple businesses, and just living your dream life?
For sure, yeah. I mean, if we want to just start with education, like, like being an orphan or living in foster care is a bit difficult for education because I don't know about you, but I was never adopted. So I lived in almost, 10 different homes. I went to 19 different schools. So always the new kid. At a time when you're young and you're not learning as fast as others, you kind of become, I get mad where it's like, oh, I can't read that word. I can't pronounce this word. I'm just not going to do it. And so once I kind of didn't want to even learn anymore, that's where it got kind of dangerous because then I just felt really behind. A lot of my teachers kind of wanted me to go to special ed class. I got held back a year. And I was just one of the worst students because I just didn't want to learn, right? And so, because I was, just felt like no one was really helping me. And it was hard, it's not their fault because I went to so many schools. Like, you can only be a great teacher to the people you're teaching. If the kid is leaving, I mean, it's not their fault. But it was definitely difficult to be a student. What got me through school though was, what got me through like middle school and high school was, like after I became a little bit more literate and got to speak and pronunciate, I was pretty good at connecting with people because growing up, that's all I really did, right? Was like I was surrounded by orphans and foster children. So you're constantly surrounded by so many people. So the benefit of that is you're really gaining some great, like just social cues and skills. And so once I kind of developed that, I was really good at like connecting and building. So I became, good at like making friends everywhere I went to school. And I was good in sports. And so my coaches would help me kind of get through classes. Without them, I would not have passed any classes because I couldn't take a quiz or a test to save my life, So that's kind of how it all started in the educational phase. Yeah.
How did you go from like having a lot of difficulty learning to founding a tech startup, exiting that, creating multiple businesses, and just living these life, which for a lot of people it's like dream life? How do you go from that, I think point to this?
I think first it's like you have to believe you can do it because intention's everything. And I live a life where I prepare for my opportunities. So like everyone can get lucky. Luck is everywhere. You know, I used to love reading and researching about like different social, you know, stories about success stories. And I would always see like a pattern of they got lucky. And to the rest of the world, like, oh, they're lucky, so they did that. But actually, like, they prepared for that moment for years, right? So I prepared for my moments for years, right? Like, I constantly would understand like what I wanted out of life, and I would prepare for that moment. And when those moments came, I was ready, you know? Um, at a young age, I had a pretty strong connection with God because I didn't really have anyone else. So basically, like, I said this story all the time where like I had this moment with God where I promised that I would never try drugs or alcohol if I was allowed to build businesses and travel the world. And this was like in middle school. So like
How old were you?
middle school, I think, I don't know how old that is. I think maybe like 9 years old, 10 years old, or 12. I don't know. My age is like really messed up.
Whoa.
But yeah, so I've always wanted to build businesses and travel the world. And there's just these little things that I was willing to sacrifice to do that. And I think that it starts off with your dream and your aspirations, and then it's all about like actualizing it. And the actualization is about preparing and learning, right? And so that's kind of the story of how that kind of plays out. But it's really hard when you're growing up in the foster care system, because it's like you got to have almost like delusional confidence in yourself, right?
You do. I was not raised in foster care. I was given up for adoption when I was 2 months old, and I
Wow.
was adopted when I was 2 years old. Um, but obviously it was very chaotic, and even when my parents adopted me, like 2 years later,
Mhm.
like my my dad cheated on my mom, and then he left, and then it was my mom alone raising me,
Wow.
and I was struggling with school and making friends, and because like the system is not made for orphans
Mhm.
or for foster care. And it's what I said before, like at the moment that you are already an orphan, that your name is on the system, you have a cross
Mm.
near your, like, beside your name. At least that's how it works in Spain, right?
Yeah.
And my mom didn't have confidence in herself either. So whenever I wanted to do something, she was like, "Oh, Jenny, you cannot do that." Or whenever I wanted to go to college, and the only way to put myself through college was through a scholarship.
Yeah.
And you needed very, very high grades, which I'd never had in my life.
Yeah.
And even the teachers were saying to my parents, like, "Oh, she's gonna work in retail, like folding clothes, because we don't think she's gonna make it through college." And my mom was like, "Okay." And then I put myself through college with scholarships.
Yeah.
But it's what I said, you have to be delusional, because no one will believe that you can do it, but you need to believe that you can do it, so you will do it.
Yeah, the second pattern that I saw in people's success stories was this like delusional confidence within themselves. And that's where like I've dedicated my brand, right? My podcast is Foolish Jeremiah, because I believe you have to have delusional confidence in yourself when everyone doesn't kind of believe, and you just got to go, and you're going to hit the wall. You're not going to know what you're doing. And I call it the foolishness almost, because it's a play on words. I think it's very powerful. I think what you said about the cross on the for foster children or adopt, like for me, it was just hard because I had to go to therapy every week, and you get called, like, imagine, like, like you're in class and it's like, Jeremiah, come to the office, like, and every week I'm going there, and I'm like the weird kid that gets therapy every week. And I always have like government officials coming in and like making me do a form or something. So, it just wasn't a normal life. Like, I knew I wasn't normal from the start, right? But again, like, I believe your mess is your message. And I think like what you just said about your mother, like the fact that you grew up a bit early with like lack of confidence within yourself, like from others, and you then figured out how to build confidence within yourself, that's a superpower, right? So I think that, everything is kind of pros and cons. Like for me, like, what's really funny about me and my story is, I don't really share my story too much, but like, what's crazy is a lot of people will try to compare, like, oh, I didn't have as bad of a story as you, or XYZ, right? But like everyone actually like has their own battles, their own story, no matter who you are. I don't care if you're the richest kid in this world. I know you have battles. I know you have trauma, and it's okay. It's okay that everyone has those things. You don't have to grow up any other way, right? But I think that my biggest thing that's been hard was like I've lived with extreme guilt, right? Which is crazy because like I feel like I've had one of the most blessed lives, like, and growing up it was really hard to kind of comprehend that, like, why am I so lucky? Why do I get to um go to school? Why do I get to go to college? Why do I get to build business? And um, man, it is a really hard thing to kind of comprehend, but I'm still working on it and trying to figure it out. But yeah, after high school, I ended up going to community college because one of my angels, Tara Bussett, she believed in me and took me from California to Philadelphia. I went to community college, Montgomery County Community College. I had tutors there, pronunciation, like speech pathology, like I learned algebra and English. The funny thing is, I was in class with international students because they were also learning. So I got to finally meet people from around the world, which gave me the like inspiration that like, oh, I can travel the world, you know? Um, and then, yeah, I just finally clicked for the first time in my life. I was hungry with learning. I was hungry with trying to go all in on education, and it worked. I graduated in honors. I was president of the community college. I was president of the American Association of Community Colleges, and I was graduation speaker. And Dr. Karen Stout, who was the president at the time, she really kind of believed in me and pushed me, and it's what allowed me to get a full ride to Drexel, which was a really good business school. But throughout that whole journey, I had the inspiration of I wanted to build my own company because I just felt like I didn't fit anywhere.
Yeah.
My first business, I was cleaning windshields at a beach. Like I always was the idea guy throughout high school. Um, yeah, like I just, if you grow up like you don't feel like you don't fit in anywhere, like you don't have a family, you don't have XYZ, it's like, yeah, I mean, you think I'm gonna belong to a company? Now I'm gonna have to build my own,
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was one of the worst employees. Were you a good employee?
I actually was the worst. I was not a good employee, even though I was trying. But my mom, I remember, she said like, "You're not a good." Because I remember this time that I was in my third year in college, and I was working three jobs. I
Yeah.
was studying in Barcelona, and I lived in a small town 40 minutes outside of Barcelona. So I would just wake up at 6 a.m., go to college until from 8 until 3 p.m. At 3:30, I had to be at my workplace. So I was just like eating lunch as I was walking there.
Yeah.
And then at 10 p.m., usually I would be done by 8. But because I was doing sales through a phone and I needed to push, so I would have no debt once I graduated college, I would
Yeah.
stay there until 10 p.m. And then I would have to get a train back home, and I would get home at 11. And then I would study, go to sleep at 1, and then wake up the next day at 6 a.m. I don't know that for 3 years.
Wow.
I don't know how I did it, right? So, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I was like, there's something more to this. Like,
Yeah.
this cannot be it. And I remember at this time that I really worked my ass off on that job, and they just fired me, and I was so ashamed. And I called my mom and was like, "Mom, I am fired. Like, what am I gonna do?" And she's like, "Jenny, you're not a good employee, but you're gonna be such a good employer."
Let's go. What's
Because
your mom's name?
Ima.
Ima?
Yeah.
Let's
So
go.
at that time, our relationship was better than now, but bless her, because I'm like, I always felt like I don't fit in anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Even in like with this is something that a lot of people with that has been in orphanages or adoptive, or they're adopted or foster care, like, you kind of feel like you have to earn everything.
Of
You
course.
have to earn the love of your own parents. You have to learn the food you eat. You have to learn the roof over your head. You have to learn going to school. Then you have to learn your victories. It comes to a point that you don't even feel like they are your victories. because when some victories are like easy, you're like, no,
Yeah.
I have to earn this. And this, if you're not careful, it can be a curse or a blessing. And for me, it was a curse throughout my entrepreneur journey, right?
Wow.
But we will never fit in, and that's what we are, entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And we don't want to fit in. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to be normal. I
Yeah.
don't want to have normal life, because then for me, like, that's it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think your mom planted a powerful seed, for everyone that's, kind of growing up in a hard situation or specifically an orphan or foster care. One of the things I used to speak about, I used to do a lot of speaking events at orphanages and group homes. And one of my talks was like, whatever happened to you that you think is the worst thing that ever happened to you, like really think about that and play me a story within your head where that was for the benefit. And this is super powerful. And I think this is where like growing up for me, it wasn't why me, but it was like try me. Like I built this power of like, you know, really bad things are going to happen to you in life, but you're always going to get through it. And if you think about how you're going to get through it, then you don't care about what you're actually going through. And for better or worse. And I think that like when you're growing up the way we've done, or however anyone's growing up, like you have a superpower, right? Like celebrities kind of try to manufacture this kind of energy where they'll create a false trauma to create creativity because it's an energy, it's a fuel. And if you can figure out how to turn your situation into a benefit in terms of how can I use this as fuel, you'll change the world. Like you will create the world you want to create, right? We have the most fuel inside us. People don't have that, right? And so, I look at it as a very strong blessing, to be honest. Yeah.
How did you take this experience and like this you being delusional to then
Yeah.
building proper businesses,
Yeah.
because you haven't built one business, you've built multiple.
So my
And
first thing before building my business was I was an employee. I was the worst employee you can ever think of. No, seriously.
oh my gosh.
Here's the pop-ups. I got fired from Whole Foods, H&M, Uncle Julio's.
Oh,
I no, seriously, I was so bad because
that's hilarious.
I don't know why. Like I was so depressed. Like I would call my Aunt Tara and I would just cry sometimes, and I would just be like, look, I just feel like don't belong here. Like
But were you trying though?
I was trying, yeah, like, but I was not good, or my energy was just so low that I felt like, what am I doing, right? And then the tipping point was anytime one of the managers sometimes like they feel like they have a lot of power because like they're managing everyone, and it's like their own little world, and sometimes they forget that these are humans, and like they're pretty rude, or they'll be like super egotistical. And I would be the young kid to be like, bro, you're 35 managing Whole Foods. Like, relax.
Oh,
And they'll be like, all right, you're fired.
of course, yeah.
Okay, so business direction of like really learning that I can succeed came from my uncle Drew, which was Tara's brother. He started Lee Collision Outfitters. It's the most successful University Apparel company in America. And, he kind of took me under his wing without knowing it, because at first he like allowed me to just be a fly in the wall. And the things that I kept seeing was insane, because this man came from, by the way, he went to Hershey Milton High School, which like, it's like a boarding school, and his family was not good growing up. Tara and him are beautiful people. And, he one day decided to put a college logo on a belt, and it turned into an empire, right? And I got to see kind of the ending of this company, and like I was so confused how humble he was. I was so confused how like I thought like you're supposed to be like work every day, like, try to build empire, take over, like
Yeah.
he was so humble. He was so in love with what he does. He didn't care about all the points. And just seeing him do his actions really taught me that like this is possible. And actually, like for when it comes to God, like I think this is like what I've learned the most is like we can preach about Jesus 24/7. I can stand on this table right now and be like, everyone, go to church, praise Jesus, all this stuff, right? But like, you know, like what Pastor Don said, it's like, it's not about speaking. It's about actions. Because when you
Yeah.
see someone do, you can feel. And when you feel what they have, you want it. So whether it's business or spirituality, you know, that's kind of the best way to actually get someone to believe in what you believe in. So I believed that I can build a business through Drew. I saw what he was doing. I saw how he was
Interesting.
leading. And, you know, I started becoming an employee of his. I was doing like screen printing shirts like in the shop. I hated it. And he wanted to fire me, but he couldn't because I, I was Tara's, you know, adopted son. So, you know, for me, it was like I was 19 at the time or 18, and I was just ready to build my own thing. And so I was watching Shark Tank one day, and I used to just constantly study them. And I saw Christopher Gray's pitching Scully. He went to Drexel University, and I was like, oh, I want to be like him. I'm going to Drexel. They didn't give me a full ride, so I went to Drexel. I snuck into the dean's office, and I'm like, this is who I am. This is my story. I want to come here, but every other school gave me a full ride, but you guys. And he's like, what? He took me to the next dean. Okay, this is my story. Took me to the next dean. So finally, we're at the main dean's office, Donna. And this is how God works. Like, literally, she goes, I know you. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean? She goes, well, two ways I know you. One, you were on my newspaper a couple weeks ago because you were the graduation speaker at Montgomery Community College. And I saw the speech and I loved it. And two, I live next door to Tara's best friend. So I've known about you. And I'm like, wow. She's like, yeah, done. You can come here. You know, you're going to be our first like full ride. Here's a huge scholarship. That school's like $60K a year. Crazy.
Whoa,
Yeah.
crazy.
So that's what started me on this journey. And then I became intern of Christopher Gray, the Shark Tank kid. I saw him at campus and was like, look, I came to this school to be like you. And he's like, all right, be my intern. And so that's what started me into the startup world. And then throughout that, I was just constantly brainstorming, constantly learning. My first company was a moving company because the house that I wanted to live in, I couldn't afford it. And it was like a building. And the manager one day was like, hey, look, I'm having all these troubles. And I'm like, how can I help you? I don't have the money to pay, but how can I get a discount here? And he's like, look, my moving company canceled on me. I don't know what to do. And I was like, all right, fine. I have a moving company, but it's students. And he's like, all right, cool. And I was like, I got it legal, like got insurance, hired a bunch of frat guys, and literally the next day I made like $20,000 in 2 days because it was like
How did you
charging.
feel when
Dude, I mean, at
like
this
that
moment,
happens?
yeah, this moment was like really big for me because it was the first time I got to live in my own apartment in my own space. I dropped to my knees and cried. And it was the first time I was making money by myself. And so I think like, yeah, man, I was confused for sure.
You weren't expecting that
No.
after all the hard work.
No. Because like you said, you know, like we need to earn everything. And then no matter what wins we have, we like completely forget what we've done. I actually have a wins journal just because I think
Whoa.
this is one of
Yeah.
our big problems.
It's crazy because like usually a lot of us, not the majority, but a lot of us, we always journal about our losses and about our bad days and what happened, but we don't journal about the wins
Yeah.
that we had. So the fact that you have a wins journal, that's something that probably I'll start doing too, because we just forget about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my friends onto it too, especially the traders, because like it's a really hard life and like you have a lot of losses and you get like, even when you win, you kind of feel like you lost because you didn't win as much as you could have. It's a very dangerous route to play because like I think abundance comes when you have high frequency and good energy. And when you're playing the scarcity game and the negative game, you're just not going to get the things that want to come to you, you know?
I think there's something though, like there's a part about you that no matter what you do, you're going to be successful because before coming here, you said, I've not been building publicly, or I'm not like, I'm someone that's very private. And obviously now, you know, you have a podcast, you're putting yourself out there, but you said like, I love the game. And because you do
Yeah.
that, like everything happens, like everything you build is going to be successful because you love the game and to stay in the game instead of,
Yeah.
here's what I created, buy it from me.
I
You
got that
know?
from Drew, you know, Drew building his company, like he was so in love with his game and he didn't care about the points. He didn't care about the speaking engagements. He didn't care about the anything, you know, like he didn't even want to sell his company when they got forced to sell it. Like it was just like he fell in love with the game. But you know, that actually hurt me because I was so obsessed with like, you know, my whole life I just wanted to build something I loved and find someone I love, right? Because it's like when you grow up the way we did, like that's all that matters, right? And I became obsessive with what am I supposed to build? What am I supposed to do? What is my why? What is my purpose? For like 3 years, obsessed every day thinking about it. Windows all written up, posters, like eating at my soul, you know? And I think that this is actually one of my other talks I do is like, you know, like life is about being lost. Like literally, the
Oh,
game
really?
of life is a game of we are lost. So the people
Okay.
that obsess over the concept that we are lost, it's like obsessing over I am human. What do I do? It's like the game is about being lost. So now all you worry about is discovery. What are you curious about? What are you interested about? What do you want to learn? That's it. Nothing else matters. Your purpose, your why, throw that out the window. That's an embodiment of who you are as you grow. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn because I always thought I had to be one thing or I had to tell everyone what my purpose was or my why. And it's just like, that's just not life. We are an embodiment of so many different things, so many different aspects. There's no need to just be like, I'm a podcaster and that is it. It's just not a thing. It's not
They're
it.
not one thing, no.
No.
And also for me, something that I've learned through my journey finding Jesus Christ and God, and it was that because of, oh, I'm a podcaster or I'm a business owner, or
Yeah,
I was attaching myself and my identity to all those things.
exactly.
And what happens when all those things are gone, because you're gonna, when you think you have it all figured out, then it's when the losses come, which I think it's more like blessings,
Yeah,
right? When you lose all of that, it's like, okay, like, who am I? And you have to remember you're like a child of God, you know, and
yeah,
that's who you are. And that's how, like, all of that, like the business, the money, um, the praise from other people, the fame, it's like
yeah,
that doesn't exist. And for me, especially with this podcast, what I said to you before, like this is gonna air and the podcast will be out there, but I've been building this behind the scenes for 2 months
yeah,
with just me and God. I was like,
yeah.
hey, I know you put this on my heart, guide me. Like I'm not
Nice.
gonna rush through things. I'm not gonna rush through life. Because also another thing that I was used to do before is I was rushing through things
Yeah,
because of my childhood and because I had to, you know?
yeah,
And now it's like, no, like we're gonna do this. And if we lose, then we lose. But I'm not gonna attach my identity to how many push-ups I've done today, how
yeah,
many hours of work. Like, no, I'm gonna attach to what God made me to be. And that really changed a lot for me because if, let's say, there's a podcast or 3 podcast episodes that are people don't like, it's fine.
it's okay.
It's fine,
Yeah,
you
yeah, of
know?
course, of
But it
course.
took a long time,
Mhm.
especially coming from, you know,
We have a lot of pressure on
yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
because this is what we're doing it for is
Hmm.
ourselves. I think the first thing is the child of God. I completely agree with. My favorite gospel song or a song of all time is called "Who Am I" by Casting Crowns, and it's literally what you just said in a song. And
Mm.
you know, I think that if you believe in Jesus and you believe you're a child of God, it's like is a very peaceful moment for yourself to be like, it's okay. You know, everything's gonna be okay. Everything happens for a reason for the better, and we're just gonna prosper. And I think that for me, like the thing is, life is gonna be up and down, and our identity is our identity. The more we try to attach it to different things, we're gonna be up and down, up and down. But we
Mm.
are our identity. That's why purpose is such a trap. It's like you don't gotta tell anyone what your purpose is. It's very personal, actually. It's like Just what are you doing? What are you learning right now? What are you curious about? That's it. That's all people really want to know, you know? And at the end of the day, it's just like believing in yourself and getting out there and doing the work. I think a lot of people skip the work. You said something about rushing. Now, rushing to me is like the devil, because basically the fruit of the spirit, what's one of the words? Patience. He wants us to be patient, and I'll tell you why. My first couple tech startups failed miserably. Because why? I was rushing, and I think because growing up how we did, we don't think we have time.
Yeah.
So
Time
then
was never
we want to
there.
rush everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, man, I skipped the work. In the tech startup world, when you build a product, the work is UX research, which just means like interview your customers. What do they really need? What do they really want? And then build it. Sounds very simple. Everyone skips this. What we usually do is I have this idea and I know they want it, so I'm just going to build it. And then 6 months later, we're putting money and time into building this app, and then we're ready to give it out. And it's like, oh, it's not ready yet. Let's do another 6 months of polish. And then finally we give it out and they're like, yeah, we don't need this. Wow. Just wasted a year of money and time and energy. And now it's like bottom. And I think that this is, for me, the biggest life lesson actually is whether it's Christianity or spirituality, whether it's business, whether it's life, do the work. Do the work. I think didn't want to do the work when I was in my like last couple years, because I was I grew up doing such work constantly. I had to work on everything. I had to earn everything. So then when it came to doing work again, I was like kind of drained. But man, did once I started doing the work, everything kind of came together, right? And I think that, you wanna be a better person, and you're reading self-development books, whatever, like implement that, practice that, do the exercise. You want to build a tech product, do the research, interview your customers. What do they really need? What do they really want? The more research you have, the easier it is to build, right? You want to find love, you got to build yourself up. You got to allow yourself to receive love, right?
Yeah. I think like now in hindsight, at least for me, the way it is like every time I tried to rush things, that was a lack of self-confidence and self-worth, because I thought like if I get this faster, then I'll prove myself that I'm worthy or that I can do it. And
Yeah.
like I think it was 4 weeks ago, Pastor Jonathan read something, and it's like in the Bible actually, it's like, don't go through life rushing, go through life ready. Don't rush, but be ready.
I love
right?
that. I love
And
that.
every time that I was rushing things, even love, like when I stopped rushing, and when I was like, I literally like wrote a letter to like God. It's like, this is
Really?
yeah.
Wow,
I
wow.
wrote a letter. I had a massive heartbreak from with an American guy, and it was not good.
Yeah.
And then I went to therapy, and I was like, what's wrong with me? And my therapist said like, you're not the child that's broken. You're the child that has mended. So meaning that I was not even broken. I was very, very, very bruised, but like I don't break. We don't break as humans. We get very bruised, but we don't break.
Yeah.
So I had to build myself up, and I had to understand like, okay, why am I rushing things? Why am I rushing like business? Why am I rushing getting things done? Why am I rushing in love? And then I wrote a letter to God, and this is how I want to feel, because a lot of the times, and I've noticed this, whenever we ask for example in love, like, oh, I want this person to make me feel this way, but you like, a lot of people say that, but they don't ask themselves, how do I want to feel with that person?
How did you unlock?
And I did that.
Yeah, how did
and
you
I
unlock?
had to wait 7 months and 4 years of singleness to get here.
4 years?
Yeah.
How did you unlock the ability to receive love?
Because it was too painful just to not receive it from myself, first of all. And when I started receiving, like in this case, when I started reading the Bible, and I was like, okay, there's something out there. And when I wrote these letters, like, okay, like, more than feeling love for another person that I don't know yet, I just feel so much love for myself because it's like everything that I've wrote is what I deserve. Like flowers, taking me for nice days, travels. Like I just wanted to be seen, feel, and heard. That's all. That's the only thing that I wanted. And when I started receiving from God, started receiving love from myself, and then I was able to open up. But up until this point, it's still a struggle to receive because I have to earn it. And same happens with business. Whenever I get opportunities, or when I had my coaching business before, whenever I would get people messaging me that they wanted to work with me, I remember I closed a 21,000 deal paid in full when in the month that I lost all my income. And you know what? That was the easiest deal, the easiest money I've ever made. And I felt so bad because like I haven't earned this.
Yeah, you don't deserve
But
it.
I did earn it by all the years that I put like before that moment. That was like the pinnacle. But I didn't realize about it.
I try to tell my friends that we're all going to have imposter syndrome. And the only way to get through it is two ways. One is believe in your work. And that's why it's really important to do the work, because it's what gets you through the imposter syndrome. When you got that 20K, it's super easy to be like, hey, I didn't deserve this. But if you look back at all your small wins and all the work you've put in, you're like, oh yeah, this is me, right? And the second thing is just don't stop, because imposter just means you're doing it for like a false reason. And so if you just keep going, you're not an imposter. You're just learning, right? And I think this is a hard thing that a lot of founders go through for sure. But you know, it's crazy that you unlocked the ability to receive love and you found love. And you know, like I think people growing up how we did, it's one of the hardest things, man. It's one of the hardest things because yeah, it's like you don't have that growing up. So how do you allow people to just love you?
It comes with a lot of pain, and this is what people don't talk about. When everyone says like, oh, you're in a relationship, you're really happy, and like I get super surprised because a lot of people look up to us and I'm like, okay, like we're not perfect, but they don't see what happens behind closed doors, like me trying to self-sabotage a relationship, or me going through a lot of pain. For me, people think that when you start receiving, you're gonna feel peace, but it's gonna come with pain, because that pain needs to happen, because it's like a receiving staircase, right? You have levels, and it's like the scale of pain. You have pain tolerance, and you have to like keep going up. Same happens with receiving, and then when you are like, okay, this level is like unlocked, okay, next one. But to go from this first level to next level is going to come with pain, because there's a lot that you need to work on. And that's why you said people don't want to do the work. People don't want to put in the hours to make it work, whatever it is in business, life, whatever. But they need to do that because they need to face that pain in order to build. Like, I'm sure that if you wouldn't have gone through, all the pain you've gone through, like, for example, putting yourself out there, being an intern, and being like the what's it called, like the underdog, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't. You put yourself through college, but that came with pain.
100%.
But you were able to receive for people to take you and put yourself into college. So it goes together.
I mean, you've kind of reached something that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, the ability to like just receive love. One of the stories I love about specifically this situation is Kobe Bryant. So he was like the worst basketball player when he was younger. Like he has a story of he was in the summer league and he scored 0 points, and he played the whole time. 0 points, Kobe Bryant. And he's in the car crying. He's like, crying. He's like, I quit. I'm done. I'm never going to be good at basketball. And his dad just tells him, like, no matter if you score 1 point or 0 points, like, I'm always going to love you. And he said into that day, he like unlocked this ability of, all right, nothing else matters. I'm just going to become the best because I love this game. There's no more pressure to impress him. There's no more pressure to impress myself. And
You just gotta love the game.
yeah, and I think that we have to figure out how to release our pressure, right? And I think having family, friends that truly want to see you succeed and just allow you to be you and not have to impress and not have to do anything else, like, this is very powerful. I think authenticity is very powerful. And
Yeah.
that's why it's super dangerous to attach your identity to anything, because then they become almost like pillars of, you know me because of this and you know me because of that, but you'll never figure out who I am because you don't have to, because I'm this guy and that guy and this guy, you know? And something I'm trying to figure out for sure. You know, I think it's something we all do.
Was your how did you feel, like, talking about identity, like, how did you feel when you went through burnout in your career?
Man,
Like, did you
I
attach yourself to like being burnout? And
my whole life was predicated on two things when it came to success: build something I love and find someone I love. I still haven't done either or, right? But I am enjoying the process, and I'm learning that it's actually like, I used to think it was about the destination. Then I was like, no, it's about the journey. And I'm like, no, it's not about the journey. It's like literally the journey will teach you everything if you're willing to learn. So it's literally just about being an active learner and being foolish enough to just keep going and trying to figure it out. But burnout was super hard for me because the one thing I wanted ever wanted more than finding someone I love was building something I loved. And I had so many ideas and platforms and different projects, and I would always fall short. And well, I remember one time, like, it was about maybe like a year of depression after one of my bigger projects like failed. And you know, I lost hair, I was depressed, I was like, didn't want to eat, didn't want to do anything. I was spiraling, you know. And it was so hard. And you know what got me through were like um Tara and Drew and the family, and also just speaking to God. Like, I would always just ask him, like, I know what you're doing, but like, what do you want me to do? You know,
oh, that's powerful.
like, if I just knew what to do, you know? And it's just crazy, man, because like, you know, like, after that, I was on this private beach, like beautiful beach in Siesta Key with Drew. And I'm one of the most like depressed humans at this moment. He doesn't really know that, but I'm one of the most depressed humans. And I'm sitting down on his beach next to him. And he's like, what's wrong, man? He knows that I've been an obsessive idea concept guy my whole life. And I tell him, I'm like, dude, look, I can't figure this thing out. I'm dedicating my whole life. I didn't have a social life in college. I worked every day in the office. Like, you know, like, I still do the same thing. Like, literally on Instagram, if anyone follows me, you'll see, like, every night I'm with my friends building new companies and projects, and it's just my life. And so I love it. But at that time, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good at this. I don't know what to do because I thought this is the only thing I'm good at. And he just tells me one thing. He says, you know, you can't pull a flower open. And he said, you're just not there yet. He's like, at the end of the day, like, we all have our own timing, and that's it. You're not there yet. And he's like, look where you are, though. He's like, you're on a private beach in Siesta Key right before COVID happened. And he's just like, just enjoy. And that moment, I was just kind of like, it made me realize, like, yeah, you know what? It's crazy. I failed, and I'm not in a good position and I don't know what I'm doing, but somehow I'm so blessed. And that was when I kind of just like switched this energy of like, it's crazy. Like my whole life, I've just been constantly being blessed, you know? And I think we all have. But if we switch the perspective, like it's just so much more powerful, right? So I'll give you an example. Like when my company failed, we were building a community app for luxury buildings. We pivoted to events because I wanted to help people bring people together. And I saw the opportunity and I just started doing research. And I was like, you know what? This company in Finland, Brella, they're like my favorite company. I want to go work with them. And I was like, they're going to be at TechCrunch, which was like a giant tech conference. So I took a flight to San Francisco, and my only goal was to find them and work, right? And I randomly ran into one of the co-founders. I didn't know he was the co-founder. He had a Brella shirt on. I was like, hey, you're with Brella. He's like, yeah, how do you know what Brella is? And I was like, blah, blah, blah. This is who I am. This is what I've done. I want to help them. I have these ideas for them. And he's like, okay. He's like, let's get on a call tomorrow. And I said, yeah, I would love to meet your HR. I get on a call with him and his other co-founder, not HR. And they were just impressed by like my energy and my passion towards wanting to help. 2 days later, I'm on a flight to Finland. So not only am I getting my first like startup job or gig, getting paid really well, but I'm also for the first time traveling the world. And like, it's just crazy how when you think your life is falling apart, if you just switch the perspective, it's like it's actually falling into place. You know? Like your mess is your message. And
Well,
if you can
yeah.
yeah, if you can like just allow your mess to become your message, like
Yeah.
it can become very powerful.
And also, I think that, like, a lot of people, and that was me before as well, when they lose things, especially materialistic things that they've attached themselves to, they see that as loses. When you, it's what you said, your message. Like, when you lose things, you don't actually lose things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you are redirecting your life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't even walk through the doors that are open for them because they're too stuck in this path that they put themselves into. It's like, no, now I cannot like do a 120, 116 to my life because I need to still walk this path. But they see all the doors that are closed, but they don't see all the doors that are open for them to walk through. And that is very, very powerful because there's even if your life is chaotic, there's always something to learn from that, and there's always something greater. And I think also, like, the thing is with finding Jesus and going through all this journey, I always pray like, hey, if this is not meant for me, just close the door, even if it hurts, even if it's painful. And like, simple example, I need to go back to London to get my residency, and then circumstances change, and I was like, okay, I just lost my residency. Now what I'm gonna do? Like, I attach myself to, like, living here. I don't like, I have a Spanish passport, but I don't want it. Like, what is going on? And now in hindsight, if I would have done that, I wouldn't be now launching a podcast and like, listen to all these people's stories. And it's redirection. And a lot of people, they just don't realize they have to like, the door is open for them. But they just look at the doors that are closed that they are trying to open, but like they are not opening. And it's just like a shift of perspective. And would you say that was your breakthrough though? When everything changed for you?
When was my breakthrough?
Yeah, when you were like at the beach and Drew was like,
Yeah, I
look at
think
what
so.
you have.
I think so. Like he has done so much for his life and like business and everything. And I wanted to be like him so bad, and I was in a rush, like you were saying, right? And I think he finally was just like, it's cool. You're good. Like it's all good. And for me, it was like, um, ah, it's so hard still, like we get lost in this race and we forget that, it's actually just a walk, you know, literally. You know, it's literally just a walk, and the path is already there. Everything's there, but we want to run and run into walls and run into mountains, and it's very difficult, man. But yeah, no, definitely after Brella, I ended up building my own things and getting investing and growing that to really with my one of my best friends in college, and then eventually traveling the world for the first time, like really traveling, going all over Asia and just falling into Bali and finding out like this is my spot and building such a strong community here. Um, and it would have never happened if I wasn't foolish enough to be like, I didn't have money at the time, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fly to San Francisco and do this. And one of my foster brothers, Albert, is like basically one of my dads. Is like he lived in San Francisco, so he let me stay there. He like, he had Ari. She was like 4 years old at the time, and I spent so much time with her because it was like just having like someone that all she wanted to do was love and play, and like it was like easy to understand like life is just what you make it, and everything kind of switched, yeah, for sure, from that moment. um and I think now it's kind of interesting because what I do now is like, I just I help creators understand one thing: like they've already done all the hard work. They put themselves out there, they were authentic, they were vulnerable, they built an audience that believes in them. And now it's just time to bring the fruits. Like, what kind of offers can we create to help you make the money you deserve? What kind of digital products can we create to, help you build something tangible for the rest of your life? And it's so rewarding and it's so cool because all the things that I've learned, I get to apply it, right? And you can say that's my purpose, but it's like, it's just an embodiment of the skills and resources that I've cultivated over time that now I get to offer the fruits to people that have, are ready for them. And, I think that's what life is about.
I think you also done an amazing job working with what you've got and multiplying that, then focusing on what you don't have and all the work that needs to be done to get what you want. I think working with what you've got at all stages of your life has put you into this spot that you're in right now, which
Yeah.
it's a blessing, but you worked for it.
Yeah, we've worked for it for sure. And we're still working, right? But it's life. We're learning, we're curious, we're working. We're around people that have those good energy, and like it's just, yeah, we're just all building. I went on the hardest hike of my life a couple weeks ago with my friend Tom. I was foolish because I know that I need to do more hard things because I think I avoid hard things, really hard things. Whether if it's not business related, I don't want to do it if it's hard. Because our whole life I did hard, 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 hard growing up when I was younger. And I know that now I need to unlock that though. So my first hard thing I've done in probably 2 years, like on a physical level, I went on this hike with Tom. And he told me it's gonna be really hard. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, cool. I played sports all my life. Like, this is easy. I played basketball 3 hours yesterday. Like, it's cool. Bruh. 3 hours up, no trail, trying to find my way through, clawing, getting scratched. And all I kept thinking about was like, this is life. You're not going to have a path. You're just going to have to trust that there's a path there and that God's going to lead you, and it's going to be scrapes and scratches and trees. And I slipped like 4 times. My legs were shaking at like an hour in, and I was like dragging one of my legs and 3 hours in. And I finished because I was just like, you deserve to finish. Put the work in. Get it there, right? And I get to the top, and I don't even look at the view. I fall asleep. Like, I fall asleep for like 30 minutes. And it's crazy because we work so hard to get to the top, and we forget two things. One, we only can appreciate being on the top for so long before you just want more and you want to climb another mountain. Two, you can't stay there that long. You can't breathe up there. There's no city up there. No matter if it's business or spirituality, you can only be elevated for so long. So guess what? There's a whole nother journey, which guess what? Was harder. 4 hours down. So 3 hours up, 4 hours down. And the down was up and down, up and down. And I was slipping and I almost fell off the thing twice. And I was just like, you know what? This is crazy because we think that life's about getting to the top, but we forget that when you make it to the top, you have to figure out how to get back to reality. You have to figure out how to get back down. And that's still up and down. And that's still really hard. But at the end of the day, like, we're all just trying to walk each other home. And it's hard. So it's like, put the work in to get to the top, but also don't forget, you're going to put the work in to get back to where you were at, back to your foundation, back to what matters. So that was hard. I won't do that again. I'll do skydiving. I'm going to keep doing hard things, like different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what you said was just a very good way to finish this episode. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge, your story. Very, very powerful, interesting story. Yeah, thank you for spending an hour with all of us.
Thank you. No, I'm super, super happy and excited for like people to just listen and get whatever they can get out of it to, just get going.
Hi guys, it's your host here, Geni Cor. If you made it this far, I hope that this episode has helped you heal, grow, expand in some way. It would mean the world if you can subscribe, like, and comment, because it's gonna help the podcast grow massively. Your support means the world to me and to my team. And we're just gonna bring you better content, bigger guests. So please just support the podcast if you can. And if you think this is gonna help someone, please share it with them. I'll see you next Thursday.